Well, hello, friends, and welcome to the From Busy to Rich podcast, where we help financial advisors grow their businesses beyond the products they sell and the assets they manage to increase profitability and reclaim their time by providing strategies and insights that will not only change your life, but practice. Wes, it's great to see you today. How are you doing, sir?
Great seeing you, Justin. I'm fantastic.
Good. I know that today's a fun one, talking about a lot of tech stuff, which is one of those topics I feel like everybody's interested in nowadays, between AI components and everything else. But I feel like we're going a little bit of a twist on that, and I'll hand it to you. Kind of kick off. Where are we going with what you're referring to as the Mind Vault method?
Yeah. So, Justin, here's how this is born. And I bet everybody listening, if you've been in this business for any length of time, you know, even 3 years, but now fast forward, some of you 20, some of you 30. Here's the thing. If you're having meetings with clients, like we're very rhythmic, we have mid-year strategy sessions, we have year-end strategy sessions with our annual retainer clients. We're always onboarding new clients. We've got a process for that, which we've talked about here on the podcast, and we teach in our class Transform. You can go to wesyounglive.com. You can enroll in that. We'd love to have you. But for whatever your process, and if you're not organized, I'd recommend maybe you get more organized in your annual cadence. But here's the thing. We are finishing up right now our mid-year strategy sessions at the time of this recording. So like I've got this one more heavier week of these mid-years, and then they trickle off to basically zero until year ends. But in the thick of it, Justin, we might have 12 to 15 of these meetings. And these are not light meetings from the standpoint of like we show the client where they are relative to where they came from last year and maybe a track of over time. We talk about all the strategies that we implemented and how they produced value in their life. We talk about the new outstanding opportunities that exist or things that they didn't get to on their list yet. And really that time to just renew, what is your big ambition? Where are you starting from? What are we going to be savagely persistent about pursuing in order to dance with the resistance between where you are and where you want to be? And when we have those kind of meetings, 12 of them, you know, on the calendar, or 15 of them, we in our organization have paraplanners that are preparing for that meeting at least the week before, if not 2 weeks. Now, if you don't have a paraplanner preparing, you are a paraplanner preparing for those meetings. But here's the way it looks. You're sitting down and you're at the computer screen and you're creating things, you know, reports. We create reports that show like where they were last year, where they are this year. We look at the balance sheet, how the accounts changed from the last time to this time and why. What does their strategy summary say? What did we get checked off the list, right? We're going through all these things. Maybe we're showing some illustrations of how accounts are performing and changes we want to make. So in the moment, they're kind of going through this, the paraplanner, and their head is around it, right? Like they've taken the time to prepare. Got it. This is what we're going to talk about. Then they go prepare for the other 14. And then they have a weekend. And then they come back Monday morning and the weight of the week is heavy because they're looking at all those meetings on the calendar that they're going to be in with their lead advisor. And they're going, I got to update him. We used to have these Monday meetings. Justin, you remember the old days of long meetings where the paraplanner would say, all right, update what are you showing in this meeting? And I would sit there and listen, or you would sit there and listen. And they were like, well, I think, hold on, let me renew my mind. Let me get my head around it again. That's the statement they would make. And because it's like, I don't remember. It was 15 preps ago and a weekend. And I went to a party, you know, whatever it was. And so it's like, this is fuzzy and it was clunky and slow. And then for me, as the lead advisor going in, I'm looking at the weight of the week. I got 15 of these. And by the time we'd be so tired, by the time we were done with our 4-hour prep session, it's like, my gosh, what is going on? And then Tuesday came and I'm like, now, Tuesday morning before that meeting, now what specifically were we doing with this guy again? And I'm having to pull stuff up and look at it again. So here's the solution to this problem. And this solves a lot of problems in a lot of areas. It is the Mind Vault method. Let's say that I'm that same paraplanner, or I am the paraplanner doing the prep. And then when I'm done and my head is fresh and it's all around it, and I've got all the collateral pulled up on the screen, I give my future self a gift. Because I put my mind at that moment in the vault. I record my screen, and there's a number of different tools you can use for this. Loom, screen Screencastify. There's a lot of built-in tools, QuickTime Player, number of them. But I record me walking through the flow of this meeting. Now, high level, it's summary, right? So it's not, you're not spending an hour on this. You're doing this in, around 5 minutes, maybe going through the estate flows, maybe going through their cross data financial snapshot, illustrations. The agenda always sits up on the left. We've got a whole template for this, and we'll give you access to our template for this. And if you join Transform, you're going to have access to all our real-time templates along with video examples of each of these. But they just record, yes, this is where we're going with this client. And in 5 minutes, they've put their mind at its best. What they were struggling to do with me on those Monday prep sessions, it's right there. So Monday morning, what do? I come in, I watch a series of 5-minute Loom videos. And Justin, here's what's happening. I get to totally use my mind, creative energy, not administrative energy, because everything I want to see is on the screen. If I want to look longer at something, I pause it. If somebody talks slow, I put it on 2 times. I listen to it fast. And all of a sudden, the weight of my week of 15 meetings gets really, really light because I know exactly what we're going to talk about. I know where that client is, where they're going, what we're talking about, the value we're going to deliver. And I might add some changes. I might shoot back to the paraplanner, hey, add this to the agenda. Let's do this instead of that. Or this didn't look right to me. Can you investigate it? So you still have some of that back and forth, but it's so efficient. The other side benefit, before the meeting starts, right? Because if I'm doing these, and I've prepped my mind on Monday, well, then Tuesday's there and I'm having meetings. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is generally when we do our meetings. And before that meeting, I go back and rewatch it. And the paraplanner rewatches it. And so their mind's instantly back. And then, because otherwise by Thursday, even if you prepped well on Monday and you didn't have this, your meetings on Thursday aren't fresh. And you've had a week full of meetings already. And what if a client cancels or reschedules? Then I'm going to have to repeat that cycle again. Well, not if you have your mind in the vault because you've already captured it. You're just simply going to go rewatch the meeting. So I'll stop there for a second because I want to hear your thoughts on how you've seen this evolve and impact. Because when you joined our organization, we were not doing this and what it's done in our organization.
Right. To your point, I mean, it was exhaustive, especially when you've got multiple lead advisors and they all have 12 meetings that week. Next thing you know, you're going through 36 or 40 of these preps on a Monday. Like, it gets rough. As far as the time duration and everything needed. And then everything starts getting blurred together.
Right.
Like it all just kind of overlaps and it looks like one big blob of this amoeba that you're then trying to then get caught back up on the day of that morning. You're going back through everything and it's exhaustive. Just for me personally, it's been huge from an efficiency standpoint, but it's also one of those things that you've got to eat the frog and do this on the front end, right? It is more initial prep in the sense of you're doing this beforehand, before that Monday and doing all that stuff. But then everything else after that is a million times lighter.
Right.
And not only is it lighter, but the quality, and this would be the point that's less of a tangible, but it's more of an intangible response that we've seen is a dramatic increase in the quality of what those meetings are. Because we've had the meeting before we've had the meeting. We've had back and forth discussion. We were able to think through potential conflict areas or challenge conversations and find additional opportunities and resources.
You bet.
And that in and of itself was far worth the price to pay to make sure that we're doing it and having it up front, let alone 3 months from now, when I'm looking back at what was the context that we got to this point? How have we evolved? Because you put in applications, you've been working with attorneys, going back and forth on stuff. A lot of life has happened. People went on summer vacation.
Yeah.
Where were we? What's going on? Well, let me renew your mind now because I've got this capability to renew mine, and I'm going to renew your mind. This is where we say we were going to do this. This is where we are. And like, oh, okay, great. Now I'm caught back up to speed, and we just pick right back up.
Yeah, I love the terminology, renew your mind. What I tell our team all the time is I never want to hear you say, I've got to get my head around this again. You should get your head around it one time and then renew your mind to it the rest. And this is it's also a great advisor development tool. So, we kind of have this progression of people. If you started at the most entry level in our organization and you had a desire to be on an advisor path, you start as a paraplanner. And so you're preparing the lead advisor for meetings. Then you progress to a senior paraplanner who has project management responsibility, meaning they're not only preparing you for meetings, but then they're managing that client's projects they're doing the monthly strategy summary. They're saying, hey, who's not doing their job? What needs to happen next? And but when they're having to think, like, what is Wes going to say? What is Justin going to say to this client, and why? They begin to think like an advisor instead of an administrator who can follow a checklist, but it's not the why. There's no why behind it. Why is like, I'm following the checklist because this is the ultimate outcome we want. And here's the other thing, and you and I just talked about this idea the other day, Justin, yesterday, as a matter of fact. You want to level up your paraplanner, because we've got paraplanners and they're newer. So there's like a junior paraplanner. We want to get you to a minimally functional competence. But there's a big difference between somebody that is like, if you are serving as my preparer for a meeting, because we got clients we work on together, and you have paraplanners that work in your organization that do work for you, but then you go ahead and say, I'm going to create the Loom meeting notes, meeting prep. And and you watch you do it versus a junior paraplanner, you see the quality, and I can show them that. I can say, let's watch one of yours. Now let's watch one that Justin did. Let's watch one that Daniel did, preparing for this meeting, this meeting, this meeting. And they can see, oh, that's that's the next step. They have a visual and an experience of what they need to live up to next in order to get to that next level of senior paraplanner. This works when I teach Transform. This is hilarious to me. We talk about beautiful Bill behind the scenes. We were talking about this with him. He's making sure the podcast goes off without a hitch, doing a great job back there. When we talk about, hey, we all know, it's not lack of information. It's like, I know what I should do, but why still do I not do it? And I will tell you, one of the things that we do in Transform that the people who get the best at it really quickly do is I say, okay, I just taught the location phase, let's say, and I demonstrated it for them. And I say, now what I want you to do is Loom me, you doing this phase. And if you send it to me, I will watch it and I will give you feedback on it. Of the 200 people that might be enrolled, I might, first time I do this, because again, we hammer it over and over again, I might get five Looms back on that. These people are paying for this class. It's kind of like that old proverb, why is there in the hand of the fool the purchase price for wisdom, since they have no heart for it? Application is the most important aspect of this. And you're just going to have to look silly at first. To get better, you got to do it. And so it's a great tool to develop you. If I'm working on my language, oftentimes, Justin, I'll send to you guys, our team, hey, here's new language that this idea, this area, this concept that I'm playing with right now. And so here's how I'm languaging and explaining it. You guys watch it. Again, we don't have to set a meeting for it. I just say, hey, watch this and get back to me. Maybe in our one-on-one, we can talk more about it. But oftentimes you'll just Loom me back. Hey, watched it. Here's an area I think we could tweak the language even further. It gave me this idea. So it's an amazing development tool in so many different aspects if you utilize it. Thoughts on that?
Hey, thanks for tuning in to From Busy to Rich. If you're listening and something sparks a question or you just want to explore these ideas further, visit us at wesyounglive.com or email us at info@wesyounglive.com. You'll find free resources, tools, and ways to get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.
I would just add to the point of, from a development standpoint, it's going back to the administrative versus creative energy. Once you've administratively checked the boxes of preparing for a meeting, you've got this and how you think you're going to present it. Doing that extra Loom, taking it one step further, and maybe this isn't for every meeting for you as the advisor, but at least occasionally, especially if you don't have other advisors on your team to help provide feedback. But it is amazing the things that come out of from a development standpoint when we're listening to ourselves, let alone somebody else say back what we were planning on saying. You're like, oh, that doesn't land on the listening side the same way I thought it was going to land when I was saying it. Sounds so good, right? Like it fulfills everything. Yeah. Or it covers the information. You're like, if I'm somebody that doesn't have my background and experience and I'm hearing that, what would be helpful there to actually better illustrate that point? Is it a drawing? Is there a document or a resource that I can bring into the conversation? Because that's really what we get paid for, is taking the world that is the world of financial planning and opportunities, condensing it down, but then making the complex simple and understandable. Like, why is this important to me? What do I need to do it? And how is that? if I start walking through all the potential trust out there, you're just going to get lost. Instead, it's, hey, this is essentially what you want to create, right? And we actually draw this out when we're talking with clients. And it just makes it so simple and easy to digest, and then easy to communicate with the attorneys and everything else moving forward.
Totally. And the, where I really, this came from was I do a lot of speaking. And so that can be to advisors. Now, a lot of times, depending on the environment, I'm giving a lot of the same message. If it's, let's say, a kickoff for a large financial services group or something like that. And used to be, I had these cobbled together notes, right, from my outlines, and I'd have to get my head around it again. And I'd be looking at it. Well, one of the best things is many of these talks got recorded. And I would just now go back in. I watch the talk from the time before and flow through a new outline. And then I make it better because I can build on a great foundation that I know is good, but I'm not having to spend all the base building. The framework's already there, right? The base level's there. And I'll tell you, this is another great thing that goes inside with this. So you guys can use this any way you want. But when it comes to being better, so once a year, I'll usually give the message at our church. And these are like series that you're doing. And so you're fitting into a series of what other people, theme other people are talking about. And it really is a lot of, you're creating new content. Well, once I got it, what we do, we're very organized to this. I will record myself going through the flow of that message. And then our pastors, that are on staff with the church, they do this for all of their messages as well. So 2 weeks before, you're giving the talk, but you're giving it high level and outlined and going through stuff. And then you get feedback on it. And what happens is everybody chimes in and says, oh yeah, that's, or Wes, that joke didn't land. Sometimes things are really funny to me and I say them and nobody laughs with me. So, but you get that real-time feedback. And when I'm going to get that, because normalizing anything new, especially a message flow, and we always think of it as you're just telling a story, right? You're telling a story, you're not memorizing information, but you kind of have to get those synaptic connections to really get strong in order for it not to feel clunky, in order for it to be like, how do you give a 35-minute talk? Well, you start by giving a really clunky 50-minute one and with an outline, and then you record it. And you go back and you watch it and you practice it. You watch it and you practice it. You watch it. So it's iterations. We are in the book Atomic Habits right now. We just finished up as a team. And it is all about number of iterations. There's the thing people say 21 days and something will become a habit. 21 iterations will make it a habit, right? 20 iterations are what that make those synaptic connections in your brain stronger. And it moves from the conscious mind to the unconscious, to where you can just do it. Like you could drive, you can tie your shoes, you get dressed, and you're not going, how do I put a shirt on? Well, first time you put a shirt on, it was clunky, and you needed help tying your shoes, but it's making these things muscle memory. This is just a great accelerant. It's like putting gas on a fire. I mean, it just gets there faster.
I think, especially before we close today, I want to make sure you've got a really good framework or structure of how you ask a couple questions about what needs to go in there and how you're refining. Because oftentimes, again, we as advisors, especially the further you get into this business, you want to tell the client everything about something.
Yeah.
But they can't handle it all. Right? Correct. That's just not where they are. And they likely don't want to know all of it. Like I like to know that I get in my car, turn it on, and it's going to drive. I put it in drive, and that's how I use it. I don't need to know every function or capability within each part that's in the engine or underneath the hood. I just want to make sure it's all working together and understand from a high level. And so I think that would be good of helping to provide framework for those listening, because I know that's helped me about how do I build out what actually should be in this meeting and then go listen to it and how can I refine that down? Because then you can always add to it. Like that's the easy part. It's really what's the most condensed, concise, succinct version, and then from there, where could I go?
Well, that's I think the whole dance of iterative design and planning is all your ideas could be really good, even relevant for this client. They cannot eat it all. If you sit down and you eat all the chips before the enchiladas come, you're not going to be hungry for the enchiladas. You don't even have an appetite for it by that point. Sometimes we spend so much time on this idea, and we're trying to cram it all in there. And listen, they can only eat so much at one sitting. So you have to decide what are the paramount things that I can talk that are going to move the needle for this client. And again, I like to break it into those areas that we have been discussing, where you've got that, hey, what about accelerating the velocity of the family bank? What is critical for me to have a discussion around that? Variable, fixed. What needs to go into each of those? That will fill up a whole meeting for sure. What about accelerating family heritage, where it's not just about leaving the inheritance? That's an important part of it. We'll talk about that. But also leaving a heritage. And you leave a heritage while you're alive. Your inheritance happens when you die, or somebody dies and leaves one to you. So how do we use that and have a whole conversation around that? And then accelerating tax intelligence. You can't have all these conversations in one meeting, other than at a really high level when you're trying to tell the client, these are broad areas. I'll give you a few examples. We would dive deeper into this and create a very specific outline and path for you to move. But staying in those three zones, I think, is critical. And then here's another fun one with this, Justin, is when we're developing as advisors, and this is good for me, it's good for you, it's good for Daniel, it's anybody that's got lead advisor responsibility, especially if you're detail oriented, is you might have a tendency to go too long in one area, and you really didn't need to get the point across. So I always tell them, hey, that was a great meeting. If you were going to Loom yourself, I said, I want you to do this. Loom yourself, having this conversation. Now, again, we schedule usually 45 minutes for a client meeting, because we find tolerance at some point in there starts to go out the window of just they can't eat anymore. They're too full. But you can still cover too much, too complex in a meeting to where the last 15 minutes of a 45-minute meeting is too heavy. So you got to go through, and I say, what if you had to deliver this context, this information, and you had 30 minutes to do it, and you can't talk faster? I like your cadence, keep your cadence what it is, but give me this meeting in 30 minutes. Then, what's going to happen is you're going to be way better at giving that conversation in 45 minutes, because you're going to cut out a lot of stuff. And I wasn't kidding when I said my messages, like at our church, it is 32 minutes is what the ideal message is. And all our systems are built around that. At some point, the people in the children's church area, I always joke, one of the pastors used to say, people would go along and they would blame like the Holy Spirit. They'd say, well, the Holy Spirit was moving. And the people who were responsible for containing the kids and keeping them satisfied, they're like, well, he wasn't moving back in children's ministry, right? He moves for 32 minutes back there, and then we need to be released. But my message is, when you're starting out, I'll have 50 minutes of content, and it's good stuff. It's just too much for people to eat. It's bringing too much. And so how do you cut out the things? How do you clean it up? Cut out the things that are good, but not quite necessary to really getting the point across. I love all this stuff. I'm just going to recap some of these benefits that we have. Is one thing, if you invoke the Mind Vault method, you're going to eliminate Monday morning scramble and mental fog. You're going to show up to meetings confident and prepared. You're going to reduce overall prep time by avoiding duplicate work. And you're going to increase client confidence in your professionalism. Long-term advantages is you're going to create valuable training materials for you and your team. You're going to build institutional knowledge that survives staff changes. People leave, right? By choice or default, all of us leave at some point. And so you've got like this chronicle or history of this. Track client relationships evolution over months and years. You can go back. I can look at client evolution in my videos from back then, see what has happened, because it all lives in their folder. Scale your practice without losing personal touch. They say, have you ever been to a doctor's office and it's clear that they come in and the first time they're thinking about you is when they grab the file from the back of the door and they go, hello, and they look at the file, Justin? So what's going on today? It's like it's very personal, very deep, all these things about the client that you're renewing your mind to. Biggest deal is a gift to your future you. Every recording is an investment in your future self. Compound time savings as your client base grows, reduce stress and increase presence in meetings. And ultimately, you're going to help the client increase profitability and quality of life. And you'll do it for yourself in the same process.
Love that. And I'll share really boils down to 4 questions. Each one of these looms should answer. And really for the meeting is going back to, and these are the questions Wes gave me to frame things up before, is starting with, what do they need to know? Who is your audience and what is it that they actually need to know? And then confirm with that with why do they need to know it? Because those are critical. If you can't answer that, then you're not going to have a great meeting. You're going to have an informational meeting, not a directional meeting.
Yeah.
And then from there, what do they need to do and why do they need to do it? To define what are the clear next steps and directions for that, because that's also what you refer back to and why, because other things are going to be screaming for their time and attention or your time and attention. And so having to fall back, we defined what we need to do, but let's remind and renew our mind to why do we need to do it? Why was this relevant in the first place to take that limited amount of resource of time that we have available to put towards it? So really hope you enjoyed today's message. Again, go check out wesyounglive.com for more resources, and thank you for listening.